just drop.
Yeah, David, stop talking.
Yeah.
David's in the timeout corner now. Okay, I got the live notifications, so I guess it's working.
I see us. We're online. We're live.
Hold on. I gotta go mute my phone.
Oh, good idea.
That's a good idea. I should do that too.
No, I never do that.
There's this guy at this briefing I was at today. His phone rang like twice during the briefing, and I'm like, dude, set it to vibrate. Like, there's a whole 8 people in the room, and the guy's doing a presentation on the Tab S4, and I'm like, seriously? Like, he had a ding once, and I was like, okay, forgot to silence it. And then his phone started. Somebody called him, and it started ringing.
Sorry, that was me.
It was ridiculous. I was like, really? Just gonna pick that up, buddy?
He's watching the stream right now and judging you.
Yeah.
How great would it have been if he actually picked it up and just took the call?
Chris 2A wants to know how we automatically switch cameras. The trick is we're running this through Hangouts, and it's just being routed into Twitch.
Yeah.
I like my answer better.
Hangouts does the magic.
Yeah.
Magical Hangouts. For as long as Google chooses to keep it alive.
Yeah. As long as the server in the back closet of Google is plugged in.
Yeah, totally. And based on how often my video drops, it is indeed a server in a closet.
You know, and the thing is, it would probably almost be good for us if they did kill it, because it would force us to like drop this and move to something better.
I mean, I still want to try Skype at one point because there's a web client that I can easily plug into OBS.
The video quality on Skype is so bad.
Yeah.
And the audio quality is terrible.
Yeah, I hate Skype. Oh, it's the worst.
I still want to try it just to see if it's actually...
I wonder if we could do... does Duo do group calls?
No.
Not yet.
Okay.
It is coming someday.
There's also...
Like, I'm guessing that's exactly the day Hangouts dies.
Probably. And there's also...
I wouldn't bet on it.
Discord does video calls as well now, but I've never tried it.
Slack does them technically too, but we can.
Yeah.
Well, is Discord? Don't you have to self-host, or like would you rent a server?
Nope. It's I don't.
It's an all-in-one service now.
Well, it's always been. You've never been able to host your own Discord.
Oh, really?
Server. Yeah. You can make a server, but it's just like a Telegram channel. It's still hosted on their stuff.
Okay.
I don't know if it costs money to make a server that you video chat from.
I'm getting it confused with Ventrilo. That's what it is.
Oh yeah.
Does anybody use Ventrilo anymore? Like, is that a thing?
I have not used it. No.
I don't think anybody uses it anymore.
I've never tried it.
You could host your own Ventrilo server. Ventrilo, whatever. People said it weird all the time.
I know you can. I believe you can host your own Mumble server, and that's been a thing for a long time.
Like, you guys are making up half these names. I don't think
Ventrilo is really popular. And like,
it was big MMO.
It was MMO, and then actually I also used it for when I did competitive Call of Duty. We used Ventrilo, but
Mumble is the IRC of voice calls.
Ventrilo was good because it supported up to like you can make like a 128 person server, which for World of Warcraft, like you needed a big Ventrilo server for your guild. Go do some raids.
David's still hip with the kids.
Yeah, I remember, like, I cannot believe how much time I wasted on that game. I could have been doing so many more things. Like, I would sit down, like, they would do Saturday raids and Molten Core, and they'd take, like, 13 hours. Like, you just, like, they'd take, like, a lunch. You take, like, a lunch break during the raid. It was, like, a job, you know, and everybody had to stick around. You'd have alts, too, you know, people that would swap in if somebody, like, couldn't finish, which was often. Yeah, it was hardcore. And it was like just painfully slow, just the grinding. Oh man, that game is like is punishing in a way that is you have to be pretty masochistic to like that game. In the way I liked it at that time, it was not good.
You should play Overwatch with us, man.
Yeah,
I don't get anything out of first person shooters anymore, and I don't know why. I played Overwatch for a little while, and it's like okay, yeah, it's fun, but it didn't stick for me.
I like it.
Well, there's like 40 characters now for you to get attached to. So,
yeah.
Also, how can we get the smart display to say its name in the intro, please, Ryan?
No.
Okay. We should have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We set that up.
Made an assistant routine.
We could probably talk about the MKBHD Pixel 2 video.
We should probably do the full introduction too. I mean, do we need to?
Okay.
We're here.
Okay. Let me do it. I'll do it. Okay.
Okay.
Welcome to the Android Please podcast. I'm your host, David Ruddick.
I'm Cody Toombs.
I'm Corbin Davenport.
I'm Ryan Hager. And say, okay, Google, you're the smart display. God damn it.
It's not working. And the display's still on.
Okay, Google. Turn the display back on.
Playing back on Spotify.
Oh.
Oh, this is going to go well.
You can't do that. Like, we're going to get a copyright strike. Turn
Okay,
it
Google.
off.
Turn it off.
Turn it off.
Okay, Google.
I'll be right back. Seriously, this is
All right, so we're just going to talk over that.
We're going to talk over that noise.
Trigger.
It's super loud. Yeah, absolutely. Don't get our video or channel flagged on Twitch.
Copyright funness.
Yeah,
I don't think the quality was good enough for us to get a copyright strike.
I don't think it was either. I think you're right.
Yeah, good old
Anyway,
hangout Vegas.
On this week's show, we have a special guest. It's a smart display, but from what I can tell, it's of average intelligence at best.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that a little bit. Ryan's been using it, and he will talk about it. But we'll start off with probably the biggest news. That's I guess it's not the biggest news. It's actually I think it's actually not exciting at all. But it happened today, and so we'll talk about it. Motorola announced the Z3, which is curiously exactly like a phone you would have launched at this time last year.
But
so
5G, David.
it's got 5 of the Gs. That's true.
5 whole
Well,
Gs.
It doesn't have 5 Gs. You have to add 5 Gs to it via a mod. And so the Moto Z3, this isn't, in all honesty, this isn't a Z3. This is a Z2. They never released a Z2 last year. This is a Z2. They're calling it a Z3. It's $480. It's got Snapdragon 835. That pricing, it's last year's phone. It doesn't make any. It's got a 1080p display, 4 gigs of RAM. It's totally unremarkable as a phone. It is super boring. But Verizon used this as an opportunity to co-develop a mod with Lenovo and Moto that has 5G support. It has millimeter wave and stuff in it too. It has 3 radios in this, there's 2 radios in the 5G module. There's a millimeter wave radio, and then there's regular Snapdragon X24, right? Whatever it is. Yeah, it doesn't even have full Snapdragon X50, I don't think. It's some kind of Frankenstein device, but it's basically a 5G hotspot, but it connects to the phone and sends it data directly. It's dumb. It is a dumb, bad idea. It's just I'm so frustrated that it even exists. Verizon is basically got its hand up Motorola and is using Motorola as a puppet to do a PR stunt. Look, it's the first 5G phone and Motorola made it, but not really, and it doesn't matter, and Motorola probably should never release a phone anyway, but we probably put a big pile of money in front of them and they did it. So I seriously think Motorola must have been handsomely compensated for this contract. That's the only reason they would do this.
It's just a really weird phone.
It doesn't make any sense.
I don't know why someone would buy it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about how much money a company like Verizon has. They can afford to buy an entire phone launch and use that as a platform for network technology. And say, we're going to launch a new network technology. Let's have Motorola make a phone to celebrate. It's basically what this is.
Yeah.
So will this mod be compatible with other hardware?
So the smart display is apparently hogging screen time.
No, I did. Okay, so your video froze, so I thought it'd be funny to just keep it on the smart display.
Oh, my video keeps freezing. I'm not sure what's up with that, but yeah, this thing just makes. They haven't said how much the 5G mod will cost. It doesn't come out until next year, early 2019, says Verizon. So it's not even going to come out as soon as supposedly some of the 5G hotspots will come out for AT&T later this year. So you're buying a phone in August to potentially get an accessory 5 to 6 months from now for that phone, which by then will be 2 generations of chipset out of date. What about this makes any sense? Who would buy this?
Then, there might be some millimeter waves somewhere that you could use it with.
Well, yeah, I imagine they won't launch the accessory until there's some millimeter wave available. Like that just makes sense. So, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being like this weird thing where you can only buy it if you live in a supported region or something because they don't want. So apparently, the way it works, I've been talking to Ryan. I'm not aware if I'm allowed to say any of this, but I'm saying it anyways because I don't care. So he's been talking to some of the engineers about how it works and stuff, and basically, when the mod's connected to Z3, and by the way, the Z3 is the only phone this mod works with.
That seems.
And so my video keeps freezing. But anyway, so the Z3 is the only phone this mod works with, and so that for one defeats the purpose of being a mod, and it just doesn't make any sense in the first place. But when it's connected, the pogo pins transfer the data over to the phone. I don't think it's doing any kind of weird Wi-Fi or anything, but anyway, all the radios have to be on. So your phone has 3 cellular radios when this thing is attached. So
it's like an extra battery built into it, or
there's a 2,000 milliamp hour battery inside the mod because this thing is going to drink down the energy. And it can't. That battery can't charge your phone. It can only power the modem.
So this is the new HTC Thunderbolt.
Yeah, well, I think putting the battery pack in the mod probably will prevent the battery life from being truly abysmal. But yeah, this is so weird. Anyway, so apparently, because the millimeter wave penetration will be so, infinitesimal when this thing launches, if the 5G, what is it, 20? I forget what frequency Verizon's doing it at. Is it like 20 something gigahertz?
It got to be somewhere between 20 and 50.
Yeah, so it's I think Verizon's like 28 gigahertz or something. I'm probably wrong about that. But anyway, if it goes for a long enough time without detecting any 5G signal, that one will go into a deep sleep mode and stop searching because it probably consumes a lot of power. But the other one will stay on. And it has a more powerful modem, the X24, than the one that's in the phone because the phone has an SD835, which has an older modem. None of this makes any sense. This is just mind-numbingly pointless. It's just a PR stunt for Verizon. That's all this is. The entire product is a PR stunt.
And there's no headphone jack.
God damn it.
Icing on the cake. But
Corbin's password is ...
Yes, exactly. All right. Sorry, people listening to the audio stream. Just ignore that 30-second gap because I don't feel like editing the audio. Sorry.
Okay.
So, Corbin, is that going back onto the original YouTube link or?
No, yeah, I didn't stop streaming. So
Okay.
we're still, we're
Okay,
still
just
popping to
making
all the
sure.
same places.
Okay. You probably
Okay.
should go in and take the audio file and cut out the dead portion. It's not hard. Just use Audacity. It's really easy. So anyway, restart here. The Pixel leaked in white, and it looks exactly like all the other leaks we've seen so far. It has a big fat notch on the front. Like this is the notchiest notch that ever did notch. It's pronounced. This is a large notch. But other than that,
Panda's dead.
Yeah. Other than that, I think it looks nice. I like the white, and I like the whole like that it's all glass on the back, and that part of it's just textured glass. I think that some people do like the metal phones, but if it's going to have wireless charging, which it looks like it will because of the charging dock thing leak or whatever, that's fine. Wireless charging Pixel that has like a little nightstand dock that like makes it clock and stuff. Cool. I like it. I dig it.
But it's not a Panda anymore. It's just white.
It's not a Panda. They're going to put it in a case anyways. Who cares?
I don't like it.
Fine. All right. You don't have to like it, Ryan. It is, as far as we know, we don't really know a lot else about the phone in terms of features or anything at this point. It has 2 cameras on the front, or 2 large sensing things. So I have to assume it's going to have some kind of Face ID like technology. And
didn't they add an API for that in Android P?
I think they've made room for other biometric authentication methods.
That was it. Yeah.
So it still has a fingerprint scanner on the back too. So that's not going away. So Google is not going all in on that, if they are at all going in on it. We don't know. Other than that, obviously it doesn't have a headphone jack. It's got a USB-C port, and it's got some buttons. Like, we don't know too much else about it at this point.
4 gigs of RAM.
Yeah. And 4 gigs of RAM. It'll have a Snapdragon 845. The new Qualcomm chip's not out till next year, guys. Like, that's not even possible. So, of course, we'll have Snapdragon 845. It looks like there are going to be 64 and 256 gigabyte SKUs. Really wish they just get up to base 128 for the premium phone. Feel like that's, let's do it, guys. Other than that, I think other than the aesthetic, not really much else was discovered in this particular leak.
Yeah. There's not a lot to say about a different color, and yeah, the leak itself isn't really all that telling. Not over what we've already seen. So, it's the trickle of leaks. That's kind of just the stage we're in right now.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what the smaller model is going to look like, because I'm not super sold on that giant notch. That thing's huge.
This phone looks ugly.
Yeah.
The front of the phone is not super attractive. I can't say I care all that much, honestly. It doesn't bother me. Like, sure, the phone should be prettier, but like, I don't actually care that much. As long as the camera is still amazing, and as long as the display panel has gotten an upgrade in terms of overall performance,
yeah,
I will absolutely take the notch if it means the screen itself is a lot better.
If the screen is not an LG, or if LG has finally gotten its act together and can produce a screen that's within 3 generations of quality of the last Samsung panel, then that's fine.
Yeah. I think the rumor is that Apple is sourcing from LG for the next iPhones. So I would hope that Apple's probably a pretty demanding customer. I mean, the displays on the iPhones have always been pretty much the best money can buy. So I'm guessing LG's probably got a new generation of OLED panel coming, and it's probably a lot better.
I hope so, but I just haven't heard any news about LG changing their lithography or anything like that. Last time when it happened, it made news everywhere. There was, I think LG actually announced doing it, and there hasn't been anything like that yet.
Do you know when they'll announce it? They'll announce it like 1 month before the V40 is announced.
Oh, maybe you're right.
They always do that. It's just the same thing Samsung does with their imaging, systems or whatever. They always like, oh, new camera sensor. Wonder what you guys are using that for. Like it's the way it always ends up working out with the Korean companies.
Okay.
Because LG Display is actually a fully separate company. Like it's its own publicly traded company, I believe. I don't know if it's publicly traded, but I think LG is like the primary shareholder, but like it's its own company. It's a big company. So I know that they just opened up or working on opening a brand new large format OLED factory in China. So I hope that the screens are getting better.
Yeah, well, their large format OLEDs are some of the best you can get right now, right?
They're like the only ones you can
Yeah.
get.
Yeah.
And Sony makes some, but they're ludicrously more expensive.
And they're not as good, I believe, right?
Yeah, they're not. They're not as good, unfortunately. But anyway,
Someone pointed out in the chat that it's the new Pixels are only supposed to have 4 gigs of RAM.
Yeah, we mentioned that.
so actually, I was reading something really interesting. Ron Amadio, if you haven't read this post, it's called Android P is for Power. And he does an interview with 2 of the guys, that do performance optimization on the Android team. One of them is, I forget his name, but he's like the kernel guy for Android. And so he's been doing a lot of the basically the heterogeneous computing stuff for Android, like figuring out which cores to utilize, for what task and whatever. And one of the things they talked about that was quite interesting was it's like, you see these phones coming out with 6 gigabytes, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and that's an increased power draw in system because that RAM always has to be on. 6 gigabytes of RAM uses more power than 4 gigabytes. It's not free. That memory doesn't come at no cost. And so oftentimes I would guess, basically the implication there is that, a lot of these phones with tons of RAM don't utilize all of it because they can put the extra RAM to sleep if it's not really necessary and it saves power. Yeah, and I feel like you see that all the time on like OnePlus phones where like, yeah, it's got 8 gigs of RAM, but it's using 3.9 pretty much all the time. So I don't know how true that is, but it was an interesting point. And I'm also not saying that more RAM has zero performance benefit. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have anything else to add.
So that's what we know about the Pixels for now. We don't know pricing. We don't know release date. I assume they'll be announced in October. So
wasn't there rumors that Google would try to announce it a little bit earlier this year?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything like that.
Okay.
There have been little signs here and there that it could and would likely be possible, but nothing that actually supports that they would or should do it.
I don't think
Gotcha.
Google wants to nudge up any closer to Apple. I think that's, asking for trouble. They're not going to be able to share that limelight.
And they're in a really good sweet spot as it is.
They are.
There's not really anyone else competing for that exact window of time, and they're actually kind of doing better and better with sales with each generation.
Yeah, they're 5 months out from the Galaxy phone, and they're 2 months out from the new Qualcomm chipset being announced. So they've got a nice gap there, I feel like, to really to exploit.
When is the only thing they're moderately close to is the Note, aren't they?
They're close to the iPhone, obviously.
Oh yeah.
So they're closest to the iPhone, but they're still like a full month ahead of it usually. So, or after it. So the hype has died down a little bit at that point.
Yeah. The Notes are usually in September, right?
Yeah,
Well,
the Note is going to be September 9th this year. Yeah, that's when Unpacked is. So the Note will be launched on September 9th.
Gotcha.
And then, 2 weeks later is Apple, right? And then 2 weeks after that is Google. So I guess they are pretty close to Apple, but I think being after by a couple of weeks probably makes a big difference in terms of attention. So yeah, hopefully, we are getting close. We're probably just 2 months and change out from the Pixel launch at this point.
Hopefully
So,
we get some leaks for the small one soon.
Yeah, and there's rumors that Google is going to announce a watch. There's rumors that Google is going to announce a new detachable Pixel book. Like, it sounds like it'd be a pretty big deal.
Now that I'm moving away from Chrome OS because I'm getting to the point where I really need Photoshop on the go, so I can't really do Chromebooks anymore. Now that I'm not excited for the Pixel book, I am very excited for the rumored watch, because this Huawei watch is just not doing great anymore.
Oh, I'm fully unexcited for whatever Google does with the watch. It's just gonna be Android Wear, but look, it looks kind of like a Pixel. Like it shares this.
I will probably still buy it.
I think we're gonna see, one of our IFA announcements is gonna be Qualcomm is going to announce their new wearable chipset. I would think, like in detail, and I would bet we're gonna see some watches. that are using
Yeah.
it at IFA.
Yeah, obviously, I hope it really has the new chipset because otherwise there is
Oh, it
no
has
reason to
to.
buy it. Yeah.
It has to, and it sounds like the Google, from my discussions with Google and from what I've seen, they decided that LTE on the watch was not a good idea. That the power budget just
You
doesn't
don't
make any
say.
sense. Yeah. So, we'll be hearing more about that soon. I'm guessing the Google leaks are going to come pretty hard and fast here soon. In the next month or so, we'll probably see a lot. So we'll learn more. In things that actually have been announced news, I used the Galaxy Tab S4 today. I don't understand who it's for. It's got a nice screen. Really, really nice screen. Beautiful screen. Pretty good speakers. And it's real expensive. $650. And the keyboard dock, which, based on what Samsung has told me in their marketing language, they expect everybody to buy, is $150. And I've used it. It feels like a piece of crap. Like, honestly, I can't believe they put their... So a couple of things.
The key the keyboard or the stylus?
The keyboard.
Oh,
so the keyboard is like the feel on the keyboard's like whatever. It's not unusable or anything, but it's like, yeah, it's a stupid little chiclet keyboard. It's not very good.
That's more than the Surface Go's keyboard.
Yes. It's more than the Surface
and
Pro's keyboard.
It doesn't have I don't understand why anyone makes these convertible Android tablets with keyboards and doesn't put a touchpad.
Right? It's totally insane.
Like my Asus Transformer pad from like 2014 or whatever had a touchpad on the keyboard part.
And Android sucks with a cursor, but you know what? I still had one.
I would still take sucky cursor Android over using it like an iPad where I have to lift my hand to do any interaction whatsoever.
Yeah, somebody actually asked in the briefing today, so like, can you use the wireless mouse when you're in the Android view? And I just wanted to be like, yeah, if you want to have a horrible experience, Android is like the least pointer optimized operating system on the planet. I think like even iOS probably works a little better with a pointer. Android has way too many touchy things going on with it.
Even so, like, this is so monumentally stupid. I don't understand.
So
like, I've never understood, like when I go to a place where people work, like a Starbucks, library, whatever, and I see people with iPads and the keyboard, I just want to go over and be like, "Are you okay? Did someone hurt?
Okay, so
where'd your laptop go?"
I want to go off on that tangent, but I want to talk about the keyboard case first because Samsung is pushing this so hard. So it's a $650 tablet. The keyboard is a $150 add-on. It's a case plus a keyboard folio thingy. So like it has that going for it, and it has a loop for your stylus. That's like the most dad-looking thing ever. But anyway, it's got a loop for the stylus on it. So I played with it. And so you can get this case for $75 if you order the tablet before September 9th. So you can save some money. I'd say it's probably worth about $75, quite honestly, or less potentially. And anyway, it works through Pogo pins for the communication. And the tablet does seem to stay docked pretty good in it. Granted, it's like such a narrow keyboard, like you don't have a lot of space. And so basically what I found is it's actually like it's physically aggravating to use as like a folio case if you just want to use the tablet in tablet only mode. The keyboard case is huge and bulky and it slips around and it's got this big pen loop thing, so you can't use it on that side because otherwise your hand's going to constantly be hitting the pen loop. Like, it's badly designed. You would have to take the tablet out of this case every time you wanted to use it just as a tablet because it would drive you insane. Like just all the edges and, different textures and everything on it. Like it's a horrible, horrible case. I like using my Pixelbook better as a tablet than I would like using this thing in that case as a tablet. It's real bad. So I was kind of like just totally blown away. They didn't go for like a Surface style thing where it basically just folds over the whole tablet, but they didn't. So we get this monstrosity. Also, the case feels very cheap. The case portion does not feel nice. So I think they really dropped the ball on that, and also not including a touchpad. Like that's aggravating. Like it's actually frustrating that they've done it this way. So what else do you want to know about the tablet? I mean, it's a $650 Android tablet. Are you going to buy it? Of course not. Samsung fanboys will probably buy this. That's it. Nobody else. Samsung fanboys and curious dads. Like that's the audience for this tablet. Like, I don't understand. I cannot for the life of me understand why you would get this instead of an iPad Pro. if you're in the market for a, high-end mobile tablet. And if somebody says DeX, I will scream.
Yeah, this is just, I don't know. I mean, when this first leaked, I was confused about why Samsung was not going with Chrome OS. And I'm confused why this is not one of the first Chrome OS tablets.
I know exactly why they're not going with Chrome OS, because they want to develop their own competing ecosystem of apps that they control. It's absolutely what it is. They've got the Samsung browser on there. I mean, Google Chrome isn't optimized for this device. Like, Samsung browser now supports like active resizing of the window and everything in the DeX mode. So like it feels more desktop-y than I think, maybe somebody who's never used it would expect. It's I would say certain parts of it are very nicely done. Other parts of it, like using the DeX mode in touch only, is infuriating. It's like touch targets for ants. Like they don't understand that like you can't use this in touch only mode with touch targets that are like 1/4 of an inch across. That's not fun. You have to have a mouse. So there are still issues. And also I don't think it's very pretty. I think it's actually one of the uglier interfaces Samsung has designed.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen a lot of DeX besides when it first came out and everyone was freaking out about it. But yeah, I don't know.
So
this is just a weird product, and there's not much else to say about it.
So I'm getting, I can tell you guys that I'm getting my, device to review tomorrow, but I can't, like this isn't a review. I used it for like 20 minutes today in a briefing. I don't understand why anybody would buy this. Like, if you were in the market for this kind of product, I would say, go ahead and take your money, find somebody with a .edu email address, buy a Surface Pro on the student discount, get a much better keyboard. If you want to splurge, you can get the $160 Surface Pro keyboard that has a fingerprint scanner on it. Yeah. And it's a nicer keyboard, I think. Anyway, and you have an infinitely better experience. Like the S Pen doesn't matter. Nobody's using that S Pen. Nobody's doing professional level creation on an Android tablet. It doesn't make any sense.
And like if productivity is the main focus, then just get a Surface Go.
Yeah, well, Surface Go, I mean, are reviews of the Surface Go out yet?
There are.
Yeah.
And the general consensus is that it has really the only downsides are the base model is terrible. It has 64 gigs of storage and
it's eMMC.
Yeah. So it's like really painfully slow storage. But once you go the tier above that, which has the faster SSD, I don't know if it has more RAM or not.
It does, 8 gigs.
Okay, yeah. So from what I've read, that is an actually good computer, and the Intel Pentium in it is
surprising.
It's better than people expected. It's like a Core M3 basically.
It's not even that. It's a Gold, which doesn't have turbo boost. So that made me pretty iffy on the whole thing.
Some of the reviews I saw said the performance was pretty meh. Like you could spend the same amount of money on a Chromebook that has better specs and get like a more consistent experience.
But if the focus is productivity, there's really no other option than Windows, or maybe an iPad Pro if the apps you need are on iPad.
Yeah. So I think that Samsung, like when I tried to, we were talking about like who is this for? Like who's your buyer? What are they comparing against? Like if they're going for the iPad is way better for gaming. Like the GPU is way more powerful. It has a way more powerful processor generally. The A10X is a beefy chip. Kicks the Snapdragon 835's ass. It's not even close. And it has probably the display. So Samsung probably has it on display because it is an HDR display and it does look gorgeous. I have to admit, done a really great job there. The bezels are smaller than the current iPad Pro overall, I think. And the Samsung tablet. So the iPad Pro does have a fingerprint reader, doesn't have Face ID yet. The Samsung tablet has the iris scan and the face recognition. So that might be a pro for the Samsung. I don't know how the cameras compare. I'm not sure what kind of cameras the iPad Pro really has, like what generation of iPhone camera they are, essentially.
I think the latest one actually uses the same iPhone X camera.
Oh, really?
Or iPhone 8.
I think the iPhone 8 because it doesn't have a dual camera, right? Yeah. So that would be a pretty good camera.
I don't know why you would take pictures with a 12-inch iPad, but hey, you can.
Yeah. So this is definitely squarely put up against the iPad Pro, the 10.5-inch version. And honestly, like if you want to do serious work on a tablet, you don't want DeX. You want the applications you need to do the work, and Apple has more of them. And like, if, for example, if you just want something you can write on, like the amount of text editors, like the amount of crazy fun, like minimalist, super hipster text editors that iOS has is ridiculous. Android has none of them. And when it comes to creative apps, it's the same story. iOS has tons and tons of creative apps, whether it be like, like visual arts, drawing, design, and then, like into music stuff. Like if you get into music, then it's no contest. The iPad wins every single time, and Android will never have that. So I think that on the content side, like you would never choose this over an iPad for content.
Yeah, and it's a good point about the creative side, because time and time again, the iPad is becoming almost Mac level in terms of creative applications available.
It is.
Like, Lightroom has been on the iPad for years. Android tablets / Chromebooks just got the tablet UI that Lightroom has had on the iPad for ages. And there are rumors that Photoshop is coming to the iPad sometime. I don't know if it's this year or next year, but it's sometime soon. And I guarantee Android will be a year or 2 or even 3 behind.
And when it comes to Android, it'll be poorly optimized. Like it's a given that it just won't work as well.
It's depressing, but that's reality.
And so then the other side of it was, well, then Samsung was like, well, on the professional side, like looking more toward your Surface Pro buyers. Well, the Galaxy, Tab S4 is a little cheaper than a Surface Pro, and it's smaller, it's more portable. I'll give them more portable, definitely. On the value side, though, I think with the Surface Pro, even the Core i3 version or the M3 version, you're getting a lot more hardware horsepower for your buck. The Surface Pro's display is real nice.
Well, even on the Surface Go is getting great reviews for it.
Oh, really?
Screen.
That's cool. And then when you look at the functional utility of Windows and like what you can run, which is everything, who's even going to have a second thought about that? And Samsung's like, well, it's for people who want something that transitions into a traditional tablet better. And it's like, no, those people are buying iPads. Those people are all buying iPads, every single one of them, and they will never look back.
The only thing really left for Android is content consumption, and no one's buying a $650 tablet to watch Netflix.
No, but I'm going to use it for exactly that. So, and I'm sure it'll be great. I'm sure the speakers will sound great. I'll find something HDR on Netflix to watch. It'll be awesome. I bet it's going to look amazing. Like I can't wait to watch HDR YouTube on that display. It's going to look outstanding. But aside, so maybe this is a tablet for video file nerds. Like maybe. You
don't want to watch stuff on a tablet anyway, man. They're watching on their nice home TVs with their big entertainment system.
It's for video files on the go. Such a wide audience. I just don't. And maybe it'll have Fortnite, but iPad already has that, so it doesn't matter. And it'll probably run better on the iPad, so nobody cares. Speaking of other bad things, we reviewed the Xperia XE2 Premium. It's a $1,000 Sony phone. You don't want it. I think we can move on.
So on the opposite side of phones that are good, I reviewed the Nokia 3.1, which is another budget phone from HMD Global using the Nokia name. It's actually it's better than I thought it would be. It's got, I think, 2 gigs of RAM. And then a MediaTek processor, and that it's just normal budget phone specs. But it was actually better than I thought it'd be. The battery lasted for a really long time. The display is very good. This is a pretty small 18:9 phone. I actually thought it was something close to 1080p until I looked at the specs and I saw it was 720. So it's really, really nice screen. Camera's okay. This phone is interesting because it's priced at $160 in the US, and there is really nothing no competitors here that are priced like that.
That is a good price.
Yeah, if you like, there's some phones at like $100 that are trash, and then once you get up to like 200, 250, that's when you can get like a Moto G, and that's really nice because Motorola isn't even really selling the E5 here. They're selling it on some carriers that are
It's
locked.
prepaid carriers, and they're
Yeah.
like customized and stuff. Like AT&T's
Yeah.
version, or Cricket's versions have a fingerprint scanner. Like it's just
Yeah,
weird change.
It is weird changes, and of course it's carrier locked. So this is a fully unlocked phone. I got LTE with voice over LTE on this phone by plugging
Does
in my Project Fi Sim.
Does it have NFC?
It does not. They
No.
disabled it for North America when you buy the Nokia 3.1 elsewhere in Europe, and I believe it's sold in India. Then it has.
I'm guessing it's not disabled. I'm guessing they removed the coil. Like
Yeah,
it's
it might have been that. I just know that when I published the review, someone was like, "Oh, it has NFC where I live." It's like, okay,
yeah. No, Motorola does the same thing. They have NFC for India because there's a very high demand.
Yeah.
Whereas in America, they're like nobody uses NFC.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this phone, I mean, I know this is true of all of the recent Nokia phones, but it feels really well made for a $150 phone. It's got like an aluminum frame. It has the 2.5D glass that you see on flagships. So it honestly feels like a more expensive phone. And I actually like the plastic back. I've never been a fan of phones that use glass backs. The only thing that I really do not like about this phone is the fingerprint sensor. There is none.
Oh,
There's no
that's a
fingerprint.
major.
It was very. I took out of the box. I was like, what is going on
I'm
here?
sorry, unless it has face unlock, that's a no sale for me. Like I
Well,
just I wouldn't recommend it. Like out of hand.
At the price, I don't know, for $150.
Nah, the Motos offer it at that price, and I feel like
There are
cheapy blue phones have it at that price. Like
Yeah, but what are
Yeah,
the performance
yeah,
comparisons
but
like?
the cheapy blue phones have malware, David.
Yeah,
it's true, they do.
and the chipset
I
on
just-
this might be faster.
I just feel like, especially in America where it's a little less price sensitive, if it costs $15 to put in the fingerprint scanner, do it. Just do it.
Yeah,
Do it.
well, and that's another point is that there are two variants of the Nokia 3.1 because HMD is going full Motorola here, and they have to have a phone at every $20 price point. They're only selling the base model Nokia 3.1 in North America. That's the one with 2 gigs of RAM and I believe 32 gigs of storage. In other regions of the world, there's also a 3 gig Nokia 3.1 with 64 gigs of internal storage, and there's still an SD card if storage is your issue, but it would have been nice to get that extra RAM and fingerprint sensor.
It has a fingerprint sensor on the higher spec one?
It does not.
No.
Yeah, you have to the next level up from that. The Nokia 5 has a fingerprint sensor.
Yeah, at that kind of money, I would never tell somebody to buy a $160 phone without a fingerprint scanner. I would be just like, go to your prepaid provider, and they probably have some stupid LG stylo phone that has like a fingerprint scanner.
Yeah, it is.
And-
It is a very strange occlusion.
It's
given the other advantages that this phone has, the build quality really is good. It feels like a much more expensive phone than it actually is. There's Android Android 1, which will presumably get fast updates.
It will get updates, which is an important distinction at this price tier.
Yeah.
Yes, especially compared to Motorola, where you might get an Oreo update in a year and a half, maybe.
Xiaomi does update their phones at this tier, but the updates come pretty slow.
And the updates aren't like OS updates; they're MIUI feature skin.
Yeah.
And getting Xiaomi in the US.
I would be interested to see what Xiaomi's phone is at this price point, like in Indian currency. Like I would like to know what they're putting up against it, and if it has a fingerprint scanner.
Yeah. And I know there were a lot of I briefly tried to look up what the price in India for this, but I didn't see it on Flipkart, so I assumed it wasn't being sold there. But then I got some comments saying this is such a crap deal in India, so I guess it's being sold on some other channel.
I feel like probably Nokia is a swing and a miss here for me. The fingerprint scanner and like no NFC, it can do better.
Yeah.
I think it can do better.
And honestly, this is just kind of in a strange price point because again, I looked at Amazon and filtered it by price, and there is just no other recent phones in this price range. Like you can get like a Moto E4, but I don't know why you would want to do that because it's going to be stuck on some ancient software version for the rest of its existence.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I think that covers phones for this week's show. If you guys are watching the video feed, you probably noticed Ryan has a Lenovo Smart Display.
Or
and
if you
Ryan,
were around at the beginning when it bugged out and started playing music really loud.
Yep. Yep, if you're around for that. So I'm sure Ryan has some thoughts about it. I'm curious to hear them because I still know comparatively little about these devices.
So I've only been playing it for the last 2 days. This is the larger 10-inch model of the new Lenovo Smart Display. And our review's coming. It's in process. I don't know when we're going to have it up, but soon. And so far, I have to say it's indispensable. I've had it in my kitchen. I just used it to replace the Google Home that I already had. I had the Sony LF-S65G, the Sony speaker that I reviewed a while back, in my kitchen. And I had been using it for music in the kitchen while I was cooking because I like to listen to music while I'm cooking. And I'd been using it for voice commands, controlling things like my Harmony, which is visible through a little window in the kitchen, or my entertainment system, which is visible through the window, as well as kind of trying to control my really cheap smart lights, but they barely work. In any event, across the board, everything I was doing before, I can still do on this unit. But added to that, I now have a screen in the kitchen. I can follow along things like recipes and advance the directions that it provides, like with my voice, or tap the screen and check lists. And in so many little ways, I can put on well, not yet, but I can put on YouTube, or I can put on Twitch. It's a cast target. I can watch stuff while I'm in the kitchen. For some reason, Netflix doesn't work. Yeah.
I did not know that. That's cool.
So for like $200, I'm basically getting a combination 10-inch 1080p equivalent. It's actually 1920 by 1200 kitchen TV with assistant functionality. That's basically a Chromecast. Like, that's a great deal in my mind. I'm
okay,
really
so
into it.
all right, my question so as somebody who does cook, the recipe thing, like, is that only with supported services, or can I just open any old web page with a recipe?
It is definitely only with supported services, but I think it's some kind of scraping. It has to do with this, the Google structured data in search. So yeah. I can pull up stuff off of Food Network's site, all recipes, and at least a few other services. I should probably actually sit down and enumerate and figure out which ones it works with, because I don't think there's a list that I've seen. But it's fairly comprehensive. There's quite a lot of stuff out there, and it's not just like big name partners. But it isn't everything.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, I would have to see if it works. Like, and the other thing is, like, yeah, there's certain services like America's Test Kitchen where you have to have a subscription to get the content, and like, yeah, it probably doesn't work with that. And
yeah, I don't think it would.
Yeah, probably wouldn't. Or the New York Times too. I love the New York Times food section for the recipes. Like, I think they're great, but like, it probably doesn't work with that. So it doesn't work with my two biggest recipe sources. So it's I know it's a very niche reason to be like, no, I don't want it.
No, that seems to me like a legitimate and fair criticism, because I know a lot of people who are really into like the New York Times recipes, because they publish those new ones that are what's the guy's name? I don't know how to pronounce it. Yodam.
Oh yeah. I forget it. Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, but his stuff's great. So I know a ton of people who are really into that. That seems totally fair to me.
Or Mark Bittman, like, you know, like he has all this stuff on there too. So,
and this was just released, so I imagine in a couple months there'll be more smart display optimized assistant apps.
It definitely, yeah, it needs,
yeah.
So yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is their API? I don't remember if it's out yet or if it's going to be, but they are definitely going to be enabling services, kind of like the voice only services now, but they will also have video. Or visual feedback. So
just like
all of those services, you'll be able to sign into them and get premium, like premium features, basically.
There are definitely gaps in the way it works right now. Like I was saying, Netflix doesn't work. I've noticed some basic commands, like really basic stuff, like setting timers. Some of the timers I've tried to set don't work. It's like the same commands that would work on a Google Home don't seem to work on the smart display for some reason, always or in the same way. But I think it's just not totally done yet.
I see. You know, for timers in the kitchen especially, I would like a lot more control. I want support for up to like 5 timers, and I want the ability to name them. Like, and it's stuff that probably they'd be like, oh, we don't think many people are going to use that, but it's like, it's the thing that would make it indispensable in the kitchen as opposed to something I might use sometimes. I still just see myself probably using this occasionally for timers and then also to play music. And that's pretty much it. Displaying recipes doesn't sound like it'd work for me.
I could see them doing power user stuff like multiple timers because there's so much in Assistant already that only power users are going to do, like Assistant, whatever the feature is called where you can set multiple things to happen on a voice command. Routines. Assistant routines. So there's a lot of stuff like that already, so I wouldn't be surprised if this turns into a pretty customizable thing 6 months down the road.
I'd have to check the teardowns, but I'm about 80% certain that multiple timers is a thing, or at least it's something that they were building and may not have
multiple timers is a thing. But you can't
you can't name them. Not yet.
Which makes it like, honestly, like that's like, it just makes it so buried that it's not useful. Like at that point, it's like, I don't want the feature anymore.
It does make it more difficult to keep track because I've run at least 2 at the same time, and if you don't know which one's which, like
you're like, do I take the eggs out now or what's happening?
Yeah, like all you have to do, it's a simple thing to do, like set a timer for eggs for 2 minutes, set a timer for chicken for 45 minutes. Like it's just one more variable to put in there, and I don't think it would be hard to parse.
Yeah, and
like
someone said in the Twitch chat also add the ability to add time to an existing.
Oh God, yes, because you can do it on the Android app and the clock. Like I feel like anything you can do in the clock app on Android should be a feature of Google Home.
They should really just port the clock app to an Assistant app on the smart display.
Well, what they should do
all that.
So the big thing that would solve tons of problems with this, syncing timers across devices. I want timers in the cloud. If I set a timer on my Google Home, I want it to show up on my smartphone immediately. This timer set.
Hey, Devin says that we actually can set names on timers. I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah.
Ryan, why don't you demonstrate for us?
Oh, we'll try.
Okay.
Oh, wow, it does work. Okay, I've never tried. So like
We're gonna try right now live.
All right. Let me see. Let me how's this press? Okay, Google. Set a 10-minute timer for pizza.
Okay, a 10-minute timer called pizza, starting now.
Whoa!
All right, touche, Google.
Thank you, Devin, for the comments.
I still want the timer to show up on my phone. That to me is the pinnacle I want to achieve for timers in the Google ecosystem. Like
you want the Timely app.
Yeah, exactly. I want Timely, which Google bought, and then they didn't kill it, but they just left it to die. It's so annoying. They literally bought an app for cloud timers and alarms and then didn't implement those features in their own applications.
Oh, they bought that app for the people.
Oh, someone's
maddening.
Ryan.
Devin's calling.
It's probably Talon.
That was Devin.
Special guest on the podcast is calling.
So we'll have a review of the Smart Display soon, probably sometime next week. And I think we should probably cover one more topic this week before we close out. And I'm going to kind of gloss over the ones we have here and go to MKBHD. Marcus Brownlee released a video about his lag problems on the Pixel 2 XL, and it has taken the Pixel Warrior internet by storm. So I think that, I assume we've all at least heard about it. And obviously Artem, if you don't know who Artem is, the guy who owns Android Police, was one of his tweets was quoted in MKBHD's video. And so, Artem has a tremendous lag on his Pixel 2 XL because Artem treats his phones like mules that he stacks 2,000 pounds of goods on. So I think Artem's problems with his phones are very special, let's say. MKBHD, probably, I don't know how MKBHD uses his phone. I don't know MKBHD. So I think that, there have been some kind of concerns expressed. The one thing I noticed is that both Artem and Marquez are using Oreo still on their Pixels.
No, he mentioned that he was using P as well. He tried both. Marquez? He had 2 different pieces of hardware, yep.
And they both lagged for him. Interesting. So that points to me it's either some kind of specific use case or there's a hardware fault in a batch. Could be bad NAND. Could be bad RAM.
He bought a new one later specifically for it. So they're 2 different units from 2 different time periods as well.
Interesting.
So I want to know, the people that are having slowdown issues, is it just on the XL? Because I feel like this is an LG problem.
Yeah, so
I
do
don't
I.
know. Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, I have had 2 Pixel 2 XLs now, and neither of them have had this issue. So, and it sounds like based on the the poll on Reddit, 29% out of 1,000 people had slowdowns. And granted, you take that with a grain of salt. People who have the problem are obviously much more likely to chime in. So it leads me to believe that there's either an app, a usage pattern, or a hardware fault. Basically, something that's going to be a little specific to people. Because honestly, I don't have. I mean, granted, I'm like probably the most well-known Pixel fanboy on the internet, but I've not had these issues with the phone. So I don't. I mean, and I've talked to other people who have the phone too, and they don't seem to have these problems.
I bet that it's just a matter of people who've used other recent phones like the OnePlus 6. OnePlus 6 has a better chipset. It does feel more fluid and faster. I know you don't like the difference in the way it responds to touch and the touch latency and something about that, but it
Touch
feels
latency and jitter on the OnePlus 6 sucks. Like, I'm sorry.
it feels a lot more smooth to me than the Pixel 2 XL. It does. And I don't think my 2 XL's gotten worse. It's just that's the way it always was. And that the 6 is, to me, much smoother, much snappier. I like it a lot.
My 2XL on P is honestly just as responsive as the OnePlus 6 on the P beta. Like on Oreo, yeah, I could probably see it. On Oreo, the phone was slower. I definitely noticed like that it wasn't perfect. Even when I was reviewing like the Galaxy S9 earlier this year, I was like, oh, the S9 feels pretty smooth. My Pixel 2 XL felt a little slower to respond times. But since I've been on P, I've not had those issues. The phone is definitely quicker. So I would attribute part of it to Oreo, and maybe part of it to just people. I guess probably people have different definitions of fast. The OnePlus 6 does this thing that I think really affects your cognition of speed, which the animations are stupid fast. They've sped them up, and I don't like that. It feels to me
that in his video.
And HTC does the same damn thing, and I hate it there too. HTC and OnePlus are probably the biggest offenders in this regard. Google's gone the more Apple route where they want to have the full animation visible whenever you complete an action. And honestly, one of the other things I've noticed, one of the things I really care about is scroll performance, because I read a lot on the phone. Like I read the news all the time, and the Pixels is just within shouting distance of iPhone perfect.
You must really hate the Essential phone then.
Oh, despise it. Yeah. And the OnePlus I don't like either, because it has that kind of jello-y thing where it's like, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. Like it's not pleasant for me to use. Samsung gets second closest compared to the Pixel, but Samsung has its own performance issues that I'm not particularly fond of. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like this, maybe a lot of it comes down to probably subjective experience, and in Arden's case, the fact that he has probably 285 apps installed on his phone.
I feel like that's a low ball. There were more than that.
Yeah, probably. Artem has such special problems that I feel like, Artem would say like his car doesn't turn on and this other person's car doesn't turn on, but also Artem's car is on fire. Like it's apples to oranges. It's not a fair comparison.
So I'm just going to throw this in. I know it's a bit unlikely. Oh, it's very likely. But I've actually had in the last couple of weeks some really bizarre issues on the original Pixel. And I'm kind of starting to attribute it to maybe something like Google Play Services or the Google app, something like that. There's just strange changes that can't be explained by hardware. They're not widespread enough, but they're definitely there. Other people are having them. I think people are just noticing it more on a Pixel 2, but it might just be a software bug that Google introduced elsewhere.
I will say the Google app on the Pixel on P is decidedly buggy. That's probably the buggiest app on the damn phone is the Google app. Like it is having a lot of strange issues. I can't get it to respond to voice like half the time. Like it's broken. So, but it's a beta, so like I don't pay attention to it too much, and honestly I type most of my searches, so I don't notice it that often. But yeah, I would say the Google apps had major responsiveness issues for me on the P beta. Everything else though seems pretty much fine. So I don't know. It's one of those things where, I think we talk about this, how like the symptom, there could be a million root causes and everybody's could be a little bit different. It's like bad battery life. It's like saying, oh, after this OS update on my phone gets worse battery life. And then, like, of course, 100 other people come in and say, oh, I agree. Well, yeah, but you guys have no idea. You're blind to every other person's variables. And there's so many variables that could impact that you can't really know. You can't say this update's bad for battery life. You can say that this update was bad for battery life for me. Much as I think, with the performance issue, well, maybe some people are doing a particular thing, or maybe it's a hardware issue. We don't really know. So, yeah, I mean, it's out there, but I feel like, honestly, it comes down to the prominence of the person drawing attention to the issue to a degree, much like the screen thing with the 2XL originally. Like, 2XL doesn't have a great screen, definitely. It's not like I, like gaze in horror every time I turn on my phone. It's just not as good as other phones. It's not like it doesn't make the experience like unpleasant. It's just, well, yeah, it's not as good as a display. Granted, which, another thing, like compared to the OnePlus 6, I'm going off on a rant here. OnePlus 6 screen sucks in sunlight, and also the auto brightness algorithm is garbage. Like, it is the worst auto brightness algorithm.
So I think it's not actually just the algorithm in my experience, because it's been the same problem all the way back to the OnePlus 3. I think it's the hardware. Their ambient light sensor is not as good, because I've checked the light level that it reports sometimes, and it'll report like weird values between 1 and 3 lux, kind of haphazardly, and I think that they just average all of that together in software, and that's why it like oscillates. It only has 2 settings in dim light, really.
Yeah, it ping pongs like crazy. It's really bad.
Yeah.
So when people say like, oh well, the OnePlus 6 is just nicer to use overall, I don't agree. Like, unless you're managing your brightness manually on your phone anyway, which I'm not.
For me, it's the opposite. I like using it better, not because it's overall better. It's because overall there's just less stuff wrong with it. It's got things I don't like, but it doesn't have all of the weird little problems the Pixel 2 XL has.
So here's my kind of view on this, as it comes down to phones, oftentimes with people who review them.
Timer's about to run out.
A newer phone can often feel much faster, much better, and you have less experience with it, so you notice fewer things.
I wonder if it's going to say the name of the timer when it dies.
Like, I guarantee if Artem used the OnePlus 6 for 3 months continuously as his only phone, his list of complaints would be a mile long. Like, we all know this.
Your pizza's done.
It doesn't. Oh, so it says the name on the top, but you don't know other than that. Okay. It doesn't like say pizza time is done. Okay.
It's pizza time.
Nice. Google, set a timer.
Google.
Time.
Stop.
Yeah.
Come on. Did it do it?
I don't know.
I can't. It's spinning.
Nope, we're still going.
Okay, Google. Stop timer. My home is confused. But anyway. Hey, Ryan, Devin called. Did you know?
He did. I see that.
Is that Devin from the comments?
It's Devin from comments. I don't think I've mentioned him before. But
Wow.
He's a friend of mine.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have no idea who this person is. Anyway, I think that's probably a good point to wrap up on.
Yes.
And we don't have Jordan on.
No, we don't.
And so nobody's going to say goodbye or good night.
Okay, Google.
usually throw that in.
Oh, I was going to try to see if I could get the smart home to say it. Can it
Yeah.
do like a repeat after me? Can we? I don't know if that works.
Yeah,
It will,
you say
Or just try
Same.
this. Okay, Google. Say good night.
Have a great night.